You're watching All to Play For, brought to you by Joe and Coral.
Welcome to All to Play For, brought to you by Joe and Coral. As always, I am joined by my guy, Mr. Joe Cole. Joe, how you doing, pal?
Hello, big man. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Yeah, I'm settled in Stratford for the next 6 weeks. So I'm actually overlooking the Olympic Stadium.
Yeah, just filming for the next series, right?
Filming, mate. Yeah. It's mad.
I'm still waiting for my script, mate. Well, where's my role?
I'm trying to get you in the background, mate. I'm trying to get you in the background. I'm near your house. I'm in Joe Cole land. That's what they call it where I am now. Yeah, you've made that much of an echo where you are. Everyone says, yeah. That's all. Look, and there's rumours now. I've talked about moving nearer to you, and you're moving away. I'm starting to get a complex, pal. Joe, we've got a cracking guest today, Joe. I'd say, he's a raconteur of stories. He's a legend, mate. Across, played for some great clubs: Southampton, Norwich, Chelsea, Aston Villa, Middlesbrough. Played 70 times I got McAteer, lambasted me for this. For I'd say my favourite footballing country. I love this guy. Great guest. Lived with Gazza for a while. Honestly, story upon story. You're in for one, Joe. Buckle up, son, because this is Andy Townsend. Hello, Andy.
How are we doing, guys? How are we? Well, big intro that, Tom. I hope I can live up to that.
I'm a big fan. You know what, Andy? What I love about yourself and it's the stories when I listen to you talk and I've seen you on things. It's just that, and we love it, Joe. Me and Joe is that sort of that 90s footballer. Well, I've got to just bring this up. One of my favourite ever videos, I was showing the guys before, is Aston Villa team drinks videos.
Oh, I know that one, yeah. And it's amazing how things come back and haunt you 20, 30 years down the line, you know. That was quite funny, that. And of course, typical of me, I was first up. I was first in the chair doing that. So, of course, when they said your favourite drink, I said, I like a lager, I like a beer. And, of course, after me, everyone's water and everyone's orange juice and Spinksy never let me down. He said, I like a Guinness and a curry. So, very different generation then.
So who is it on there who sort of says, say, like, I like a beer, but, now and again, I want to have a Bacardi.
That was Spinksy. That was Nigel. Yeah. That was a goalie. Yeah. That was
and he said he went full out, didn't he? He went, and it's a double as well, he said.
A double and a large one. Yeah. Hey, what a different era, different culture, different mentality. You know, we were kind of in those days, in my late 80s, when I sort of mid to late 80s, when I first started, you were encouraged to go out and drink, you know. It was good for you. It was good for team spirit. It was good for this, good for that. And you'll have witnessed that, Joe, too. You'll have seen in your early days that mentality. Your career, Joe, you crossed over from that into a completely different mindset and thought process. You know, I can imagine. But goodness, for me, when I first started, I went from non-league into Southampton, who were a top 5 Premier League Division 1 team, as they were called then. And when I walked in, I couldn't believe everyone was getting smashed 3 days a week, you know. And I would never have believed it, you know. But and you had to keep up. If you didn't keep up, you were no good to anyone. And that's the kind of mentality. That's the way it was.
Do you think, though, Andy, back in those days as well, that, and this is talking as a fan, and again as a fan who sort of straddles that sort of 90s footballers, and I remember when I was growing up, there was Wimbledon, that sort of crazy, the second generation, Peter Fear, Warren Barton, all those sort of guys, Scales. Yeah. Those guys used to be out and about where I grew up, and now and again you go to town. But I think that made players feel a little bit more close to the fans. I think they weren't the superstars. They felt like guys who might have grown up on your estate or guys that might have grown up down the road from you, and they felt like almost
the big man guys. That's right, but they still are. The lads still are. But what happened is, Andy's right, because I started at the time when it was very, like you said, you go out for a drink. I saw all that, and it was just coming to the end of it. And then it become, by the end of it, if you weren't having a salad and a protein shake and getting 15 hours of sleep, you was unusual. So I see the whole change of it. But they still are lads from the council estates, but they go into the system, the academy system now, and they're like little professionals. I see the under 10s turning up at Chelsea, like tracksuit, wash bags. What's an under 10 need a wash bag for? Like to get his hair gel and his moisturiser. All the gear, like immaculate. They all sit like little robots, and they become professionals. But they're still lads from the council estates where we all grew up. They are still that they get trained so between an inch of their life as kids right away through to they're little professionals.
Does that take the character out of some of them, Joe? Do you think? Does it take out what you are as a kid? You know, I wonder. You sometimes look at younger pros, and I've seen your era and all you boys coming through and all have amazing careers, and I see other young players that don't quite do it, and you wonder if the spirit, the free spirit, has kind of been dragged out of them somewhere along the way. You know.
Yeah, well, definitely the free spirit is dragged out of them, and I think the young lads now, they sort of try and express themselves. Like, see, like everyone getting on Paul Pogba's back about his haircuts and things like that. Like, well, why?
Yeah,
why?
I think Jesse Lingard's had that.
Jesse Lingard as well.
Yeah, he's a great character, and he's got a bit about him. He's a bit different, and I think West Ham fans, have taken to that. But I think the thing I find with is, growing up myself and sort of talking before the show a bit there about working on sites. If you like the amount of times when I was sort of first on sites in the late 90s and people would have a story about, I was in a boozy the other week on a Sunday and I ended up having a few beers with Ray Parlour. I remember I don't think I was speaking out of turn the fact that Ray Parlour likes a fight, but I remember a geezer saying this, right? I was in a pub.
He won't be suing you for that, Tom. He won't be suing you for that. Don't worry. You're all right.
And I remember all of us decamping down to that pub on the chance we might bump into Ray Parlour, because it was that thing of like, if a footballer come into your, and at the pint with you, I just felt the sort of, it's a weird thing. I mean, and getting into that, Andy, I think it's we talked about this a bit with Jason McAteer, that Ireland team of like 90 and 94 and under Jack Charlton, and I watched that documentary over lockdown, which I thought was heartbreaking, but at the same time, just incredible.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Of what a man he was. But that team, sort of for me, that 1990-94 team, that typified the sort of almost the passing of the guard, didn't it? And the end of that, sort of those times.
It's very true that. I mean, we were, when I look back, I'm so thankful and so grateful. And I don't actually spend a lot of time reminiscing about my time as a player. I mean, it's starting to feel like a long time ago now, it is. But I don't know if you do, Joe, but I don't spend that much time. People say, oh, you must, do you watch all your old games? And it's like, no, I don't, You don't, because you just don't. And one, you're busy doing what you're doing now. And two, I like memories. I like what's in here. That's what I like. I like to, and the things you remember are the good things normally, the nice times, the good times you had as a group, Joe, the good laughs you had, the great days you had on the field, the piss taking, the laugh on the way to the ground, coming back home, just the whole, they're the little bits that every now and again, particularly when I was helping making Jack's film, and I went up to see him a few times, and it's like when you see someone, Jack Charlton was such a force of nature, right? He was such a character and such a personality, Joe. I tell you, Tom, he'd frighten you if you didn't know him. He could put you on your back foot straight away just by his size and stare and look, and and the way he was. He could make you feel a little bit uncomfortable because he was just that kind of man. To see him go from that to obviously as a man in the last stages of his life, bless him, it makes you starts to make you think about everything, all things, and so grateful for those amazing days we had together, and the fun, the seriousness of it, of course, playing in World Cups and big games and great times, but the fun you have together, and that kind of now 20 years on from all of those times, nearly 30 years on from those times, it's those little fun times that come into my mind more than anything else. The little moments that you didn't share with everybody else, you just shared as a group, and that's the fun.
The interesting thing about the documentary, I thought, was actually Jack Charlton was so in front of his time of how you guys played, almost like in the sense like that sort of real sort of pressing play. It's like we're not, well before his time.
That's probably to some degree, Tom. That's probably always been there. Teams have obviously gone after other teams, Joe, haven't they? Yeah. But we used to do it so blatantly. In fact, there were times when, as players, we used to say to Jack, we got to let them breathe a bit. We got to let them out a little bit so as we can get behind them and can. But he wouldn't have it. You know, he wouldn't have it. No. You can keep going in after them, and you keep doing this, and you'll force mistakes out of them. You win it there. You win it high up the field. We flash that ball in the box. I want people flying in the box. Now, if you think of Liverpool in this day and age today, you know, Liverpool, they go after teams high up the field. When they get it to their boys in the box and try and let them do their magic. And you're right. And funny enough, at the time, he was considered a bit backward. You know, Jack was considered like, let's go back the way. That's not how things are going to be done now and in the future. No, that's a little bit sort of caveman football, etc. But what I think he identified was that a lot of international teams couldn't cope with it, Joe, if you did it well.
Yeah.
And if you had good players doing it, you were in business. And we had good, you know, we had some serious players. And of course, we're all playing football at our clubs, and then we turn up with Ireland and we're going bang and going after it. But we were very, very good at it, and we had some amazing results, you know.
Yeah, it's right. You get a lot of coaches, don't you? I mean, nowadays they'll change the name of shutting down to pressing and counter pressing, and they dress it up. But at the end of the day, if you do it intelligently as a team and you've got good players, that's the whole basis of what Jurgen Klopp's done. He's got good players in. He does it. It's not just the only thing they do, but they're not like Man City, are they? Where there's all these pretty patterns of play and they play through lines, and that's great as well. Liverpool, you know, there's a few patterns of play, but it's mainly you can't get out against them because their press is so good.
The press is so good, and then you think when they had Van Dijk, Joe, how many times we see Van Dijk from that centre half position, and all of a sudden he goes bang and he hits 160 yards onto Mo Salah's chest, who's then running at a fullback on the edge of the box, and anything can happen, you know. And whilst we had a very different way of doing it, we had John Aldridge, we had Big Niall, and we had Cass, and we had people like that. So we were literally, it was going up in the air to those guys, and then everybody else was looking for something to drop. From there, we had license to do whatever we wanted to do. You could play, you could try and be a little bit creative. But if you were trying to be creative on the halfway line, Joe, and lost the ball, fuck me. Right? Honestly.
Don't worry. I've
You've had a bit of
few of them.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but Jack was, I mean, he would take you off. He'd take you off, no matter what time of the game it was. If you he had a thing in his head about the square ball on the halfway line, Joe, getting cut out, Tom, right?
Yeah.
Because if that ball gets cut out against good players, they're through you, they're through the lines, as we call it now. They're going between the lines and they're running at your back foot. And like literally, he used to have, I mean, and he reminded me of that 1,000 times in the 10 years I was with him.
Yeah.
Andy, don't play them square. If that square ball gets cut out, I know, Jack, don't worry, I ain't playing that ball. I'm not doing it. Yeah. But every now and again, you used to get the ball and like the only sensible ball on is that one. Do you know what I mean? And you're all looking at each other for a couple of seconds thinking, can I do this and get away with it? You know, so, but that's why I think he had the success he had. And I think that's why he was loved by everyone, because it was absolutely his way and no other way. And there was no half measures, nothing in between, no grey areas. We all knew what the rules were and go and do it. And listen, you know, there's a lot you can learn about management. I've played under managers that 1 minute you look at him and think, does he really know what he wants here? Does he really know what he's doing? Do you know what I mean, Joe? And then I used to look at Jack, and you only had, you just knew straight away what he wanted.
When you go back to that 1990, I mean, that for me was the sort of, that must have been just an incredible, that first World Cup. And you talk about that and him being a guy who could, you know, who basically come, and he went there with, like, and you see that in a documentary, he went there and he had a sole focus of like, he'd been treated pretty badly. He'd been in sort of a bit of disrespect going towards him.
Correct.
And he had a point to put, and by God, he proved it. But I mean, what I love is like, you know, we have a term, and I don't know if it's right, but it's that term of what we call people from where I come from, shit kickers, right? So it's just outsiders and whatever. When I always remember my dad just being so proud of him, uncles and all that, when I had a team in 1990, buzzing about it. But when you went down the line, it felt like, you know, like that weird thing. And that's what I think I miss about those days of football. It felt like, if I was out for a night out and it went a bit bandy and it went a bit the other way, I'd like to be amongst this island.
Like to be amongst them. Yeah. And you know what? I mean, we used to when we were away, we used to have to ask for a curfew. We used to have to say, Jack, we don't want to go out tonight. Right? And he'd go, you're all right. Have your dinner, have your evening meal. Go on, go and have a couple of beers somewhere. One day. And again, because he knew that as a group, you know, if you do go out and you're and you're creating that little bit of togetherness, you're away from him, you're away from the staff, you can just relax a bit, you can have a couple of beers, you can do what you do, you know. And of course, but the problem with all of us that was a couple used to end like, what are we doing? Are we going, it's 10:30, what do you think? Well, if we go back too early, Jack will still be up. So we might as well stay for another hour or so and then wait till he's gone to bed. And then eventually it's 2:00 in the morning, you know, and it's getting a bit out of hand. But I think he knew exactly what he was doing. I think he used to encourage that, because when you're out sitting around, Joe, as well, as you know, you've been on international tournaments, you're talking about other teams, you're talking about other players, you're talking about the way you're playing and why we need to do more of this or we should be doing that. And so you're actually, rather than sitting in your room, sitting there, you know, on the phone to your missus and then on the phone to your mum and dad and then you've done flicking through channels, you can't watch nothing, you know, whereas when you're out having a couple of beers, you're almost preparing in a way for your next game, you know.
100%. 100%. Do you know what? When I think back at the England teams, and we was completely the other way, because I think that the media was part of that, just getting on the lads if we got caught out doing a couple of things, and you get chastised for it, didn't you? But we needed a bit of that. It was so serious, and then it was you go in there, you play your PlayStation, you play a bit of pool, play a bit of table tennis, but you just wanted to get out. It felt like you was in prison. And then when Capello come in, he went up another level. I went down for breakfast one day. You know, you usually go down just before training. I had my shorts, my T-shirt and my flip-flops on. And I thought the way he spoke to me that I'd kicked his nan or something. He screamed, take your flip-flops off. I'm like, give me a break. You know what I mean? And then I've gone to the breakfast thing. And then there was dry toast, no butter.
Yeah.
And scrambled eggs, and then that was it. There was nothing else to have. And then, you know, like you used to have like a little snack station. No snack station. We had to be.
Nothing.
He was so militant in like how he was, and the lads just went against it. Lads were like this is just too much for me. Like you can't get a bit of food when you want. You got, you know, you got to wear your full kit all the time. Trainers. The full tracks all the time, trainers. He was just, you had to be in bed at a certain time. Like if he was wandering the corridors at 10:00, I'm a grown man. And I'm thinking, this is too much. And we needed a bit of that, what Ireland had. I think that would have brought us together a bit. Because by 2 weeks into that, the lads were just pulling their hair out.
Tom,
just wanted to get home.
Just, Joe, on that, so we get up in the morning, you can have what you want, obviously. So you go training. Yeah. After training, right, we'd be on the bus coming back to the hotel. And we always used to sing a little song, Jackie, get us a pint. Jackie, get us a pint, right? And we want the coach. And Jack would be up the front of the coach and he'd turn round, right, like that. He'd turn around and have a look and he'd go, bugger off, clear off. You're not having a drink. 2 days before. Sure enough, we pull over at a pub. This is 1:00 in the afternoon. 2:00 in the afternoon. We just finished training. Literally, we've still got our kit on. 1 pint of Guinness, just one, literally. 1 pint of Guinness, done. Back to the hotel, shower, have your evening meal. 9:00 in the evening, sandwiches and teas coming around, banging on the door, you know. And I can remember a couple of times, Cass was my room partner. I used to say to Cass, fucking hell, if I don't stop eating, I ain't going to be able to move tomorrow. There was so much food and Guinness and drink on the go, you know. But actually, and we used to take to the field, and because we had such a hard running game, I can honestly say, out of them 70 games I played, I could count on one hand the amount of times I ran out there and thought, I don't feel great today. Yeah. Every time I felt I could do 90 minutes, and if I had to, I could do another half hour, no problem. You know, it's like I felt great. And yet, you know, people talk about preparation. And of course, before the World Cup quarterfinal in 90, right, the Italians leaked where we were staying. So obviously we're playing Italy in Rome. Yeah. So, you know, we're like lambs to the slaughter a little bit really here, you know. Yeah. The gladiators are going to skewer us tomorrow afternoon. You know, it's going to be one of them. And so the night before, they leaked where we were staying, and all the taxi drivers in Italy, Joe, they were all outside our hotel, kept going around in circles, just beep, beep, beep all night long, right? So I kept looking out the window thinking, is there a problem? And then we started to realise what was going on. And it was like they were taking in turns of cabbies to turn up and just toot their horns all night long. So 10:30, we get a phone call, Jack, there's a meeting downstairs. When we got down there, there's 30 pints of Guinness on the top. Night before a World Cup quarter final. Right? And it's like, come on, we'll have a couple of these, and then they can fucking toot their horns all night long. We won't hear nothing. You know, have a couple of beers and you'll sleep better. You'll go to bed.
Yeah.
Bingo, job done.
That's brilliant.
You know, my favourite thing about that game as well is because you all went to meet the Pope, right? Before the game.
We did.
We did. So, is that part of you being a guy out of Kent being like...
I know. And you know, it was only 5 years before that I was playing non-league football. It was a bit of a story, really. You know,
who did you play for?
Yeah, so I was Welling United. Joe was my team. Yeah. That was my local team. Growing up around Bexley Heath and Dartford, that sort of area. So Welling United. So I played for them, and I had trials at Chelsea as a kid. They didn't want to know. I went up to Sheffield Wednesday once with Al Wilkinson. Never saw a ball. I took 2 weeks off work and never saw a fucking ball for 10 days because they were just fucking running every day, everywhere. And I thought, I jumped in my car and pissed off. I thought, I can't be bothered with that. So, and I kind of felt that it wasn't quite going to happen for me. And then one day I was literally sitting at work and I was on the phone, the phone rang, and it was Laurie McMenemy. And he said to me, do you want to come to Southampton? You know, and Southampton were like 5th in the old Division 1 at that time, going very well. A lot of big name players. And I went there. And so, just, you know, it's only 5 years prior. And then all of a sudden roll on 5 years. And it's the night before a big World Cup quarter final, which was amazing.
That's amazing.
And the Pope story was brilliant because after we'd beaten Romania, we beat them on penalties. And so we were all going crazy in the dressing room, as you do. It's to then be playing Italy in a quarter final back in Rome is pretty special. So we were all buzzing about that. And then on the way back, I think from Genoa, we were going back to Rome now. I think on the way back, they were saying, look, there's an audience with the Pope a couple of days before the game in the Vatican. We're going to try and see if we can go and meet him. So eventually, we did. And so we go to the Vatican and the Pope goes through his speech in about 10 different languages. So I think Jack, bless him, Jack nodded off at one point. Jack was at the front and he was like that, you know. His head went a bit when he was like that, yeah. And anyway, eventually, after it finished, we were asked to we could go and meet Pope John Paul II back in his apartment. And so we went back there, and in his private quarters, there was about 20 of us. And do you know what? When he walked in the room, like, wow, now that was a bit of a, that was one. Do you know what I mean, Joe? It was. I mean, there are certain people, as I said to you about, you know, Big Jack had a presence, but Christ, goodness me, you know, wow, this man walked into the room and like everyone, you know, because we were all talking and all the lads are muttering and what's happening and what we're doing and how long we're going to be. And then all of a sudden the door opens and like, stum, you know, like it's dead silence.
What was his apartment like?
It was, well, I was going to say.
What's wrong with that, Tom? This is journalism, mate. I'm on the other side now.
No, it's like, what kind of decorations do we got?
Did he have a plasma up? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. Big hi-fi, big stereo, Joe. Yeah, a couple of big speakers. Guitar hanging up in the corner. Yeah. No,
painting a Scarface on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was. Do you know what, mate? Honestly, actually, I remember the room wasn't that. This particular room wasn't that big. It wasn't that big, and he had various other members of the church were all there, sort of his aides, etc. They're all there, ushering us in here and go in. So, of course, when he came into the room and we started talking, and a lot of the boys are blessing themselves, and you know, and it was a very special moment, particularly for some of the members of our staff, Mick Byrne, our physio, and Charlie O'Leary, our kit man. You know, like they're religious men, very religious men, and like a life's of following a religion and one man. All of a sudden, in that moment, it's like what a moment for him, you know. So incredible. But it was when we were all sort of lined up, and he'd said hello to a couple of people, and then he said, "Who's the goalkeeper?" And so Packy Bonner was one. Packy said, "That's me," you know. And he said, I too was a goalkeeper when I was a young man back in Poland. When I was a young boy growing up, I was a goalkeeper. So he said, there's a close eye on you over the next couple of days. And I wish you the best of luck on Saturday night. So, which was a lovely thing to say to Packy. We're all taking the piss out of Packy afterwards, saying the Pope's a better goalie than him, and all that stuff. But anyway, sure enough, so when we played the game, Tom, obviously, Olympic Stadium in Rome, and it was an amazing night. Never forget the atmosphere in the ground that night. It was so kind of electric that you really, really, them games, Joe, where you're screaming at each other and you can't hear each other, and you're like 10 yards away. You really literally can't. Yeah. You're bellowing at each other like that and can't hear each other. The atmosphere was so kind of electric. Anyway, I remember Baggio on the halfway line. I had one of those situations where he's kind of gone past me, as you'd expect. He's gone past me, and I could have maybe fouled him. In that moment on the halfway line, I might have been able to get away with a little trip or a little bundle into him. Sorry, pick him up and get back and recover, get back behind the ball. Professional fouls, they're called nowadays, Tom. Yeah. Dirty bastards we were then in my day. But I let him go. I sort of he went across the front of me, Joe. Like when you cut across the front of someone's legs, they either foul you or they don't. Yeah. And I didn't touch him. He's knocked it wide to Donadoni, who's come inside off the right-hand side, hit a shot. Packy saves it, and he kind of stumbles at the near post as he saves it. It bops down. Schillaci rams it in the far corner, 1-0. And that was that, So anyway, after the game, and this is one of Jack's finest lines, we're all sitting there, everyone's disappointed, you've just lost in a quarterfinal, the dream's over, you're going home, whatever. And we're all sat there, and I was one of the last to get in the shower. And Packy was still sat there like this. He was like this, still sat there looking at the floor, gutted. And Jack went, come on, Packy, come on, get in the shower. Come on, let's get going. Come on, done now, it's finished, get in the shower. And he sort of got up and he sort of slowly mooched off into the shower, And Jack looked at me, he had a cigarette in his hand, Jack looked at me and he took a drag on his cigarette. And he went, Andy, Pope would have saved that. It was such a great line, isn't it? Because it was an awkward shot at him, Joe, an awkward one where he's kind of got his hands on it, but couldn't quite catch it. And he stumbled, he went beyond the near. As he sort of saved it, he went beyond his post. And the next thing, so of course, the goal's open and bang, he's knocked it in. But amazing tournament, amazing time, and just a thrill to be a part of something like that,
Oh, it's amazing. That sounds amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah, it was
Andy,
good.
can I Tom, I want to ask Andy, you need to tell us a story about when he signed for Chelsea, because I watched Andy at Chelsea. He was a brilliant player for Chelsea. Him, Dennis Wise. Was Vinny there at the same time as you?
Yeah, so Vinny came a year later, Joe. He came in my second year. He came in my second year. Dennis and I, we signed pretty much I think we're about 4 days apart, but we actually had our little kind of press conference. And of course, when you go to the bridge now, Joe, and the hotel and all and everything there, we'll take all that away, strip all that back. And do you remember as it was, Joe, when it was just a shed? Yeah. And you take all that away, and there was Bates's office in the corner. And Dennis and I are in there. And when we walked in, he said, right, this is, and he's got a model of the stadium, right? He had a model of the stadium that's there today. And of course, as he's talking, he said, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Yeah, I'm doing this, I'm putting a hotel here, apartments there. And Dennis and I are standing behind Batesy, and we're looking at each other going like, is he mad or what? I mean, like, I'm looking out the window and there's shit blowing across the car park. There's, boxes of crisp bags and rubbish and bin liners everywhere. And I'm like, and all of a sudden he's now talking about this complex, which is like going to be right up there with the very best. And so me and Den are looking at each other thinking, he's not all there. And anyway, I was always a Chelsea fan as a kid. So for me, I could have gone maybe to Arsenal at the same time. And Arsenal were a successful team. They were going very well under George. And there was a half a chance that could have happened. But when I heard that Chelsea, I just wanted to go there. I just wanted to go and play for them. And even though the ground was, a bit of a dump in places compared to many, it still felt brilliant to me. Do you know what I mean? The day you signed, you know. And Den was obviously at Wimbledon, and he'd had his FA Cup success there, and he wanted to kick on a little bit for the next level and to start playing regular international football, etc., etc. And we loved it. I mean, you know, absolutely loved it. And we had so many great characters there, Joe. We had, you know, if the division was decided on characters, I think we'd have won it, you know, because in my time there, obviously Dennis was a great character. We had Vinny, we had Mick Arthur, Kerry Dixon, you know, Big Dave.
That got to be the hardest team that's ever been assembled in the Premier League.
Oh, it's a terrifying
Mick
team,
used to scare the life out. I used to be sitting right next to the dugout, and I used to get all the lads to sign me. I've probably got Andy's signature 1,000 times. I used to get it I was that kid who got it every game. But Mick, when he used to come over, I used to walk away. Yeah. It was like something from the Avengers. Because he was so intimidating.
Yeah,
like,
I remember when Mick opened the nightclub in Luton. He said to all the lads, because Mick was obviously had a big association with Luton. He lived over that way, and he opened a club in Luton, Joe. And he said to all the lads, "Can we all come over and help us on the opening night?" Yeah. So we're all there at this club in Luton, and as we were having a beer at the bar, one of the bouncers who was about 6'4", like massive guy, he's come over. He said, "Mick, there's a bit of trouble outside," and so. Instead of saying to the bouncers, "Oh, look, just go and sort it out, will you? Do me a favour, you know, do what I'm paying you for. Just go and tidy that up." And Mick went out there and chinned a couple of them in about 2 seconds flat. And then he's coming back in, right, where's my drink? You know, like that. But, yeah. Oh, dear. No, look, he was, again, Mick was a very, very good player as well. Technically, a very good footballer, you know. And we were lucky. We had Cass was there, of course. We had so many good lads, and on any given moment, Joe, we were a useful team. But we could also lose to anybody, you know. Yeah. And that was Chelsea then. That was the Chelsea then, which obviously was very different to the one you played in, and the great success that you had. But it was. But I think the non-league stuff and the island stuff, you know. All sort of, which was all a bit kind of off the cuff, you know. I kind of liked that sort of vibe, you know. That kind of suited me, I think. Where 1 minute people thought we were great, the next minute we were shit, you know. And I don't know why. There's something about that used to that I, looking back now, I find quite sort of endearing and quite funny and quite charming in a way, you know. The island, whenever we used to travel, you know, with Ireland, if we had a game in Italy, we'd go Dublin, Heathrow, Zurich, Milan. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because it was a £5 cheaper per head, you know. and we'd all be landing. We're going, "Are we here?" "No, we're in Zurich." "What are we in Zurich for?" "Well, we've had to come here because we've had to refuel, and unfortunately, we've had to go this way because of air traffic." "Oh, okay." Cards, get the cards back out. Away we go for another couple of hours.
I've been with my wife now 45 years. We're childhood sweethearts. We've been together since we were 16 and 15.
Oh, come on, Joe. You're starting to make me cry now. What's up with you? Jeez,
well, that's the intention, Alan, to make you all cry.
Check out the full video now to find out why Joe is Alan's next winner.
When you talk about characters there, and like one of Joe's favourite bits of the show is what really happened, and the thing that came in and everyone wants to hear about is you, like that Middlesbrough team that you joined.
Yeah.
And you know, you talk about great players, you talk about great characters. I think I'd say I'd say Jackie Charlton of that era as a manager, and then obviously you look at Gazza. Obviously, you know, we all love that guy, and he was incredible. But you lived with him, right?
We did, yeah. So when I first signed, go on, Joe. Was you going to say something?
See, I was going to say, was Merce in that team as well?
Yeah, he was.
And who was in charge of recruitment that thought that would be a good idea, putting Merce and Gazza in the same team? Like, come on. I mean, that's like.
Do you know,
there must have been a point in the room who go, right, we've got Gazza in the team, we're going to sign Paul Merson. Someone must have been out on the room and go, is this a good idea, chaps? Do you know what I mean?
What a good player Merce was as well, by the way, right?
Amazing.
Mate,
one of my
Merce was such a good player.
Because I know Merce in that. And I've got a bugbear with Arsenal fans with Merce. Like, I don't think he gets enough respect. He was one of the top players. Like,
very good
When
point.
he played for Villa, even and Middlesbrough, he was brilliant.
Mate.
If Merce could do it with the outside of the foot, he would.
Yeah.
You know, how many players do you know? You were one of them, Joe. You could do it. You know, if I had to knock a pass and my life depended on this pass, it's only a 30-yarder, but my whole footballing career depends on it. I'm not going outside of the boot, right? Because it might not get there, or I might fuck it up, or whatever. Merce found it easier to hit balls with the outside of his boot, right? And he'd drop it on us. He was a very, very, very talented player. I remember when I signed for Middlesbrough, Ravanelli was still there.
Was he still? Right? You know what? He's one of my favourite. I went to, back in the day, I went and watched him, Baggio and Vialli together. Like when they played youth, I was obsessed with. And when Ravanelli came.
So Juninho had gone. Had gone, but Rav was still there. Emerson was still there. Emma was a good lad. He was a good lad. He used to like a fag at half time. Emerson, Robbo would be saying, "Now we'll go, and where's Emerson? Where is he?" And all of a sudden, look across, and there's this little puff of smoke coming out from above the toilets. So I think he's in there. But when I signed, Rav was still there, and it really disappointed me actually, because he said to me, he was sitting on a treatment table. I shook his hand, and he said to me, and he's Italian, broken his hand. Why you come here? Right? On the day you walked through the door, Joe. Do you know what I mean? Which I thought was crap, and I wanted to say for the same reasons as you, mate. Only I'm not getting quite as much.
That was the thing that made me laugh, though, Andy. Do you remember? I was talking to the guys before when they all signed, because that's the thing that buzzes your head about Middlesbrough. Then they signed Juninho, arguably at the time the most exciting, sort of like the Brazilian Joe Cole. Emerson, and I remember Ravanelli signing for Middlesbrough, going, "I've always wanted to play for Middlesbrough," and I'm like, "Fuck it, yeah!" I remember it was quite a famous thing. And fast forward to and to be fair, that team actually that he was assembling, Brian, with you, Gazza, Merson, was Ray there as well?
Do you know? No, Ray came after me, so that in that first season, obviously. When I joined them, they'd gone down. They'd been relegated. Mercer joined a couple of months before me, and when I joined, like Mercer said, "Fucking hell," he said, "We've got it full on here. I'm telling you, mate, to get back up, we really have. We had some good players, but we were all, Joe, the wrong side of it a little bit, really. Yeah. But of course, I had a flat in Yarm, which is a lovely little village, not far from Darlington. Beautiful little village. I was quite content there. Gazza goes and gets this house in a place called Seaham, which is near Sunderland, in between Sunderland and Newcastle. And he ends up renting this house, which is like, he thought it was haunted, right? He did. He thought this house was haunted. No, he did, Joe. He said, honestly, I'm seeing fucking some shit going on in here, I'm telling you. I don't like, And so, anyway, eventually, I ended up sort of staying there with him 2 or 3 nights a week, sort of something like that. And we used to, with Gaz, you finish training and it's like, okay, so what are we doing? And it's like, well, I'm 35, Gaz. We've just been, I wouldn't mind just going home and having a sit down, really,
Yeah.
Let's go golfing. We're going to have a game of golf. And it was like, all right, we'll have a game of golf, 36 holes later, right? Because he's can't play 18. He's got to go around twice. Do you know what I mean? And then it's now 4:30, 5 o'clock, and it's like, do you think we can get another 9 in before? And Gaz, I don't want to play another 9. I'm knackered. We've just done 36. How many more do you? And I wouldn't mind if he was any good. He was shit. He was hopeless, right? I wouldn't mind if he could play golf. So and then we go home, and it's like, so we had a snooker table in the house. Now I used to play a load of snooker as a kid.
Yeah,
I used to play a lot, and I got to a pretty useful standard. I used to play all the time as a boy from like 13 up. Before I started playing football, I was living in snooker halls in South London all day long. Yeah. And so, of course, we always used to play like for a couple of quid, and then it was a five. And he owes me 7 million quid. Right? That's where it got to, Joe, right? Because he never beat me, Tom. He never managed to beat me once, But one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen with Gaz, and every day was a scream with him, by the way. And the beauty with it with Gazza was that it wasn't always like he just was him. It's just what he did, It's just the way he was. You was with him, Joe, in the England camp, and you've seen it. But he, so he was he was suffering a little bit with his OCD. And like he was genuinely that was starting to bug him. And obviously he later on, he actually had to go and get some help with that. But the early stages of that were that he wanted everything really tidy in the house. And I didn't even know what it was at the time. I didn't realise. But back then it was like he wanted everything absolutely pristine. So I'd get up in the morning, I'd go in and clean my teeth, and then I'd come out the bathroom. When I come back into the bedroom, my fucking bed's made, right? And it was like, right? And it was like, Jesus Christ, who's done? And I'm like looking around the room thinking like, is there some kind of evil spirit in this place that's following me around? You know? And he'd be outside the door and he'd be going, oh, blimey, I was waiting for you to get up. So I just wanted to, you know, get your bed sorted out, get it all sorted out for you. So anyway, we'd been training, we'd been to a restaurant, we'd had something to eat, we came home, we had a couple of games of snooker, a few more quid going up on the bill, which was usual. And so anyway, because we'd had a couple of drinks, we got this cab driver to bring us home from the restaurant. And Gazza said to him, are you working tomorrow morning, mate? And the fella said, no. And he said, do you want to take us to work in the morning? He said, look, he said, it's now like it's midnight or something. So you might pick us up, might as well just, we'll get up in the morning, you can take us to training. He said, go and sleep in that bedroom up there. There's one little one at the back, right? So he goes up to this back bedroom, this cab driver, and this poor lad done, you know, I mean, he could have said no, the lad, you know, but he's being ever so nice, and he said, yeah. So he goes up there, and anyway, little did he know that in this particular room, the little ensuite next to it, there was a problem with the toilet. When you flushed it, the water just kept coming, right? It just kept going. It didn't, the little ballcock thing. Tom, this is your game. You know what they are. But they used to get
toilets.
Right.
I mean, I've been caught short a couple of times in this situation.
Right. But it used to get stuck, and so the water just kept coming out.
Yeah.
So of course the poor lad's gone to the loo, as you do, and gone. Anyway, so I come down in the morning. When I come down the stairs, I could hear shh, and I'm thinking, what's that noise? What's that noise? So I've opened the door to the snooker room, right? And there's a hole in the ceiling. I kid you not. It's about 3 foot round, this hole in the ceiling. There's water pissing out of the ceiling, right? The table, Joe, has been fucking destroyed, right? Yeah. Absolutely. The balls are everywhere. Yeah. So I'm now downstairs, and I've got these doors open, and then all of a sudden Gaz is coming down the stairs, and he can hear the noise too. And he's gone, what? What is that? Right? And I've just shut the doors. I went, right, don't worry about it. I said, listen, we need a plumber. We need a plumber. Said, but we got to go to work. And as soon as I said we need a plumber, he's twigged. The guy upstairs flushed the dodgy loo, right? That idiot, he's gone, right? So poor fella's down in the kitchen waiting for us, the cabbie. He's all smart. He's all dressed, ready to go, you know. Gazza's gone, did you flush that toilet? Right? And the fella's gone, yeah, of course I have, you know. And I'm going, don't have a go at him, mate. He don't know. It's not his fault. I said, but we need a plumber. So we've gone down the hallway, opened the doors, and when he's seen it, because he wants everything tidy and spick and span, right? Yeah. He's gone, oh my. So anyway, one of the funniest things I've ever seen, Joe. He drops his bag down. He's got his flip-flops on. He's walking across the snooker room, and it's all like as he's going across the room, right? There's all shit and plaster and dust and horrible crap all over the table. He gets the triangle off the top of the light, you know? Yeah. And he gets the reds, and he's trying to set the fucking balls back up because they've gone everywhere. And he takes the triangle off, and all the reds start floating away on the water, you know? And I went, what are you doing? I said, get out, you know, it just cracked me up. Do you know what I mean? It just cracked me up completely that he's trying to set the ball, trying to get it all, because when we used to finish playing, he used to brush the table down, set the balls back up, ready for tomorrow night. Do you know what I mean? Like that. Oh, man alive. But we did have a scream, I must say. You know, did. He was very funny. And what a fantastic player. I never saw I played against the best guys. I played against him when he was at Spurs, and he was always the man you had to watch, and such a brilliant player. But obviously he was having there were issues in his life which were difficult for him at that time. And so we never quite saw the very best of him.
Yeah.
But every now and again, Joe, flashes of it used to come out, and like every now and again he could do something that you just hadn't seen, or you just hadn't seen anyone else be able to do that or pull it off. And he was amazing, brilliant.
He's a very special player. Very special player.
He's the best English player I've seen him in my time watching it. Do you know, I'd love to, but his star was just too short. Like I said, he had injuries and problems in his life. If we could imagine he had like a 15-year career at the top, what he would have achieved, it would have been unbelievable, wouldn't it?
Yeah, incredible. I mean, and funnily enough, when you were talking about the regime, like your Capello regime with England, I remember him telling me when he went to Lazio, he said like they were so strict and it was so different, and things like that for Gaz would have been difficult. You know what I mean? As I said, because a normal day for him. I remember Terry Venables saying to me, Euro '96. I was working with Terry once, and he said in Euro '96, he said day before the first game, Gaz is out playing head tennis with a chef at 7:30 in the morning. Right? At the hotel, Joe, at Burnham Beaches, wherever it was, and he's there. And Terry said, people used to say, oh, Gaz is out. And I used to say, don't worry about him, he'll be fine. Who's he got with him, though? Because that's, do you know what I mean? If he's got other lads with him, they wouldn't be able to get up at 7 in the morning and be on the go all day and then go and play brilliant at night, And that was, Terry said, I know he can do it. I'm not worried about him. He'll be fine. Don't worry about him. He'll be great, But that's what he was like. He was, and so for him going to Rome and having this really kind of big culture shock and change, it was always going to be very, very hard for him. That very difficult.
Andy, are you up for some predictions?
Come on, then, let's go. Yes.
Joe is leading at the moment. Joe, you smashed it last week, my friend. Again, You're back in the lead, right?
Back in the game, love it.
Right, I'm going to fly through these. Okay, but Andy, I'm going to let Joe go first because Joe's got a bit of a habit of copying our guests. So, right, we're going to go predictions. First up, big game. Chelsea versus Man United. United even money with Coral to win the league without City. So you take City out of the equation. Chelsea, Man United, what are you saying, Joe?
Draw.
Andy?
Good question. That is a very, very good question. I think Joe's got it right, but not to go the same. I'll go Chelsea 2-1.
I was going to say Chelsea. I will not copy you, Andy. I was going to say Chelsea there. I believe Chelsea. I think Chelsea might nick that. Right, next up, even bigger game because it's a top 4 game. Right, I never thought I'd say this.
He loves it.
Man City, West Ham. Coral have got West Ham at 12-1. I mean, this is a big one. Joe, you're up.
I'm gonna go. I've got to go Man City, Tom. I'm sorry, mate. I'm looking to win this competition. I've got to take the love out of it. I want West Ham to win, of course I do, but no one can beat Man City.
No.
You could put West Ham, Chelsea and Man United against them. They wouldn't beat them. They're unbelievable.
They are unbelievable at the minute. I'll tell you what, West Ham are doing look a proper team, Joe, don't they, at the minute?
Yeah.
They do. They look a decent team. They really do under Moisey. Here's one for you. I'm going to go, how about this? I'm going to go 1 each.
Oh, a draw. I'm going to fly in, and I've got to say it. I'm going to go West Ham, Souček.
Go on, Tom.
I'm going to throw in. I'm going to go with my art there. Right, finally, arguably even a bigger game, but we're going to go this way. It's one of your old clubs. It's West Brom versus Brighton. Brighton 12-1 for relegation. Dear. Are they still in a fight? That's with Coral. Joe, West Brom, Brighton.
No, Brighton. I watched them the other night against Palace. They were so unlucky. I can't see Big Sam. I just think that style of football, I think it's just coming out the game now. And I can't see West Brom picking up enough points to stay up. And I think I really like what Potter's doing at Brighton. I like the way they play. I like everything about it. I think he's a top manager.
Andy?
Yeah. Well, look, West Brom were unlucky against Burnley when they going down to 10 and were much the better team, should have won the game. I think I'm going to go draw again, which is no good for it's a reasonable point for Graham Potter, but it's not good enough for Sam. I can't see him surviving, but I'm going to go 1 each on that one too.
I am going to throw in my hat into the ring. I'm going to go West Brom just because that's the only way I'm going to beat Joe this week. I'm going to back out, mate, Big Sam. So, listen, Andy, it's been an absolute joy, mate. It's been a pleasure chatting to you, brother.
Very good to speak to you, Tom.
Legend,
nice to see you, Joe.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
mate.
Andy. Great, mate. That was brilliant.
JC, great seeing you. People, you've been listening to All to Play For, brought to you by Coral and Joe. We'll see you next time.
You've been watching All to Play For, brought to you by Joe and Coral.